IGN's weeks-long celebration of brand new video games, Summer of Gaming. We've got tons of trailers, reveals, and interviews with developers. For even more Summer of Gaming goodness, download the TikTok app, follow IGN, and search IGN's Summer of Gaming hashtag to upload your own gameplay moments and best plays. Or leave us a yappa down the comments section of IGN.com, and your yap may wind up in the stream. We're also raising money for charity by streaming some frantic speedruns of your favorite games and taking some relaxing tours of celebrity Animal Crossing islands, with all donations going to support worldwide COVID-19 relief and reuniting families through the Bail Project in support of Black Lives Matter. IGN made a strong statement in support of Black Lives Matter last week, and we here at GameScoop also support the fight against racism and police brutality. Now, by donating, you'll have a chance to win gift cards, game codes, or swag from companies like id Software and Bethesda. Donors who give more than $50, feeling generous, will have a shot at a custom Summer of Gaming Xbox One X. You can donate by following the links in the video description or heading to donate.ign.com. We've already generated $16,235.26 to help fight mass incarceration and the COVID-19 pandemic. And major shout out to our top donor, Blanco's Block Party, for their donation of $1,000. That is amazing. That is a scoop gem. Right now, I'm here with Tina Amini, Sam Claiborne, and Lucy O'Brien. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Hi, Damon.
Hello there. Thank you for joining me on this very special edition of GameScoop, part of IGN Summer of Gaming. We have to talk about Sony's PlayStation 5 Future of Gaming event yesterday. First, give me your sort of overall impressions. What did you think of the show? Let's start with Tina.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, twofold, right? Like I thought the games were really amazing. They had 37 games, which is really impressive. There's something exciting about every single one of them. We got to see the actual console design finally. So just a really big news drop there. And honestly, I was just overall impressed with the production value in general, especially given, work from home mandates and working and living through the quarantine. So I thought they did a really good job. It was exciting to watch.
Lucy, you're a regular cast member of our PlayStation Podcast Beyond, and I know you did a bunch of pre- and post-show coverage of the event yesterday. What were your overall impressions?
Okay, first of all, Beyond. Second of all, I thought that the show was great. I think, as Tina said, there was a great lineup of games. Sony really positioned itself as like, this is the holiday console. These are the games you're only going to be able to get on PlayStation 5. A lot of them were very family friendly. I really think that was a smart play on their part. The console itself, it's wild. It's ridiculous. I love it. I think it's just like overall, it was just a really, really fun show. And I think Sony is kind of in the lead now when it comes to this console race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Sam, I know you've been doing a lot of gaming on Xbox this generation. Did the conference yesterday do anything to sort of change your mind about where you'll be spending your time next gen?
There's so many games across both systems that are awesome. I think like you're going to be fine with either system at this point. But man, I really liked yesterday's show because I always say this. I don't really care how the console looks, although this one looks kind of goofy and I don't really want it outside of my home console. I kind of want to put it in a cabinet. We'll see how that goes. But yeah. I do think the games are really important to focus on. And man, there was such a huge variety of games. And one thing that I need to do is start like seeing previews of these games, which we're doing and stuff like that, because I want to see what they look like in like super high res, glorious 4K. Because all I've seen is like my best YouTube setup, and like I can't really see if they look different in next gen, but they look fun, and that's what's awesome. We have like, what was it, Tina? 37 new fun games to check out now. That's so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. Yeah. I can't wait.
I was a little bit shocked at how many games there were in the conference yesterday. Also, it's crazy to think that Sony backed out of E3 last year. They weren't planning on coming this year, but then E3 gets canceled, and now Sony's back with an E3 level conference the week of when E3 would have been, and like Microsoft is nowhere to be seen. It's just a crazy.
2020 is a wild ride for all of us, Damon.
Yep. Also, the presentation from home are so good. They're like just show the trailer. There's nobody walking around and pacing. And honestly, I was a little bit amazed that they were able to get people like cut out on black backgrounds for the interviews that they had. Like, I don't really know how they pulled that off. But look at our crazy stuff back here. But they looked really pro, and I think they did a really good job of just showing the important stuff, and I like that.
So as the event was going on and we just kept seeing game after game after game, I started to wonder if they were going to show the hardware. But of course, they did at the end, revealed the PlayStation 5 hardware, and it has been Well, I don't. It's been a talking point for sure. It is a wildly different console design. I'm in the camp. I think it's a little gaudy, and I much prefer the sort of stylish, classy Xbox Series X design. But I know that apparently I'm in the minority there. 68% of IGN readers say they love the PlayStation 5 console design. I know Sam seems to agree with me. Lucy is a little bit more in favor of it. Tina, how do you feel about it?
I think I'm in the like 10 or whatever other remaining percent of IGN polled readers that just don't really care. I'm fine with it either way. Like, it's going to be the system that I play, hopefully the amazing games that they showcased in the conference the other day. And that's the thing that I have my mind most on. And then the controller, which looks comfortable and maneuverable, because that's obviously the vehicle by which we're experiencing the game. So the console, I'll throw it up next to my TV. I don't mind either way.
Yeah,
It is pretty cool that
like
it's in white. That's very different.
That is very different. I like the design of the controller a lot, but I think the console's pretty ugly to me. I don't know. We have a quote from Sony Interactive Entertainment president Jim Ryan explaining the design choice today. He said the PlayStation sits in the living area of most homes, and we kind of felt it would be nice to provide a design that would really grace most living areas. That's what we tried to do, and we think we've been successful in that. Jim Ryan, my wife would beg to differ with you. There's no way she would let me have this out.
What does Jim Ryan's living room look like if that is kind of like, just like an easy thing to slip into it? I mean, I just think this design is bonkers. It looks like, it's basically the sort of the gaming console equivalent of racing stripes on a car. It's just so silly, and I love it. I love it because every other game console of the last generation has been so conservative with its design, and this is just so ridiculously out there.
I think it looks like a Wi-Fi router, like those. They keep on trying to like attract people by adding antennas and fins and stuff to Wi-Fi routers. I think that's kind of the same idea. What I do think is cool about this is that when this is a retro console, it will look so retro. Like, it's like the NES, like where it looks like a VCR. Like, it's just so funny to look back on old consoles, but some of them look stately and cool still. Like, I think the PlayStation 1 looks really nice still. But man, this thing's gonna age in a really fun, cool way.
Well, so that's ironic because Jim Ryan had also said that they wanted the design, to look like a piece of furniture, which is funny. And I guess it's big enough to look like a piece of furniture. Hey, his quotes, not mine. But he said that they wanted it to be future facing, to be a piece of equipment that looks like it's designed for the 2020s. So I don't know, is everything going to look like, a spaceship in the future? I suppose so, if that's the inkling that they've gotten for this design.
I'm ready for 2020. I'm ready.
There you go. It needs to be a little flapped open.
They revealed two models of the place. They revealed two models of the PS5, the standard one and then a digital-only edition that doesn't have the disc drive. Apparently, that's the only difference between the two, but that was a surprise to me. Lucy, were you surprised by the digital-only edition of PS5?
I was actually more surprised with the one that had the disc inclusion. Actually, it really felt, looking at the two, that the digital one was the design. Do you know what I mean? And then like the disc drive one was kind of like, oh, where are we going to put the disc drive on this? Let's put it on the side. And it kind of looks like it's, the digital one that's kind of had a little hernia going on, But I'm really pleased that gamers have the option for both. I mean, we all know that there are those of us who still really love our physical media collection, and I don't want to see that go away anytime soon. So I'm pleased that PlayStation owners and fans have the option for the disc version.
I didn't even realize that until just now that the base for the one with the disc in it is also chunky. It's a different base. That's so funny. Man, I'll never think of this in a different way, Lucy. You've completely ruined or heightened my senses of this console. This is perfect.
Just a little
a little goiter.
It makes perfect sense too, because it's obviously having price differentiations is beneficial, because then you're able to reach a larger audience if you're able to give them the two different variances there. But we haven't heard any news, and Jim Ryan said that there's no plans to reveal the price anytime soon. So it's difficult to say, but I do find it funny, not totally surprising that they have a discless version, but I do find it funny that they've sort of formally unveiled it before Microsoft, who's been the ones kind of working on this behind the scenes, before they've had a chance to formally reveal their option.
Yeah, the law is if they don't reveal the price by the end of the summer, then it's free for everybody. So,
Yep.
They only have a few more
we don't make up the rules. That's just the law.
That's the law.
Okay, we need to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. GameScoop will be right back. We'll be shining a spotlight on some of the standout games of the PS5 showcase. Welcome back to GameScoop here on IGN Summer of Gaming. For some bonus Summer of Gaming goodness, download the TikTok app, follow IGN, and search IGN's Summer of Gaming hashtag, where you can also upload your own epic gaming moments. Or leave us a Yappa video reply in the comments section of IGN.com, and your yap may wind up on the stream. Right now, the GameScoop crew is taking a look at some of our favorite games shown at Sony's PS5 reveal, and I think everyone is in agreement that the real standout of the show was Stray, because apparently you play as a cat.
Yes.
Well, we're all cat lovers here, so obviously we would say that.
Plus cats.
Yes. I mean, it's like it's cats have always taken that kind of backseat, particularly in RPGs, like same as dogs, I suppose, but cats. And I love the fact that we're actually going to be able to play as a cat in this weird cyberpunk world. And I just think that like cyberpunk and cats together at last, it's a beautiful thing.
R.I.P. humans. It's
Look,
at least
a
the
cat
robots
would
are
never
remembering
wear
us.
a backpack. Ever. You would never be able to get a cat to wear a backpack. I know in this weird, dark future, they've gotten cats to do things that cats would normally do, but I was pretty amazed by that.
I mean, this is clearly strictly for cat survival, the reason by which it has this accessory. So I think it's just adapting to the cyberpunk world around it.
Like what?
Also,
Sam? Sam, I want to know what things are the cats doing that they wouldn't normally do? What dark deeds have they been driven to do?
Like the cat just had a droid friend there. The cat would absolutely swat that out of the sky. just nail it immediately.
Not if it deems them potentially there for treat opportunities. So, we don't know the full context between the cat and robot droid relationship yet. It's just a trailer.
That's a good point. Now. Tina, what if this is not a game about being a cat? It's a game about leading a cat with cat treats.
Yeah,
I would rather be the cat.
I mean, environmental
I'd
puzzles.
rather be
Yeah.
cat.
My cat would rather get the treats.
It appears to be a world inhabited by robots where humans are no more, which actually reminds me of an episode of Love, Death, and Robots. I don't know if anyone saw that episode, but there's an episode where robots are touring a planet where humans used to live as tourists, and the only living creatures around are the cats, and the robots are really scared of the cats.
Aww.
Remind me a lot of that.
Yeah, they become
this game
the new
looks.
king.
They're really scared of them. That's great.
That game looks awesome. But let's talk about Ratchet and Clank, and actually the subtitle escapes me. Rift Apart, is that right? Ratchet and Clank,
Yes.
Rift Apart. Right. That sounds familiar to me. To
Or
me,
as Brian
this was
Altano
the real.
says, rip a fart.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Of course he does. To me, this was like the real demonstration, the real next-gen demonstration. And can you guys still hear me right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it looks like the screen is frozen. Just making sure you guys are still here.
Yep,
Yep,
still
and
here.
we're checking out cool B-roll.
Okay, good.
This
This is
beautiful game.
the really impressive next-gen showcase to me, because they're using this sort of like interdimensional warp mechanic to warp between worlds instantly. So you're instantly loading an entirely different game world on the fly, which seems to really be showcasing the speed of the PlayStation 5. What do you guys think about this one?
I just want to jump in and say, like, absolutely, it was the only, in my opinion, real showcase of the SSD at work. I thought it was incredible. One thing I would really have liked was a little bit more of this throughout the show in general. Like, I think with the Spider-Man Miles Morales game, they could have shown us some gameplay, because as we know, that game's going to be all about speed and swinging through massive environments that are going to load in the blink of an eye. So I thought this was wonderful, but again, I really felt it was the only showcase of the SSD at work.
Yeah, Luce, I agree. I think in
trailer.
general. Yeah, they had two, which was nice to see, like both of the options, the trailer and then the gameplay segment too. And I think in general, the Sony conference really didn't have a lot to specifically say about what could be possible with the PS5. They did kind of recap some of their buzzwords, a lot of which obviously were about lighting. And I thought that Ratchet and Clank did a good job of showcasing that. I mean, obviously it's a very lit up, bright, animated game, but even you can see just like reflections on the ground, just so impressive. And I'm guessing that's going to be part of that PS5 experience, but it would have been nice to see some of that a little bit more obviously in some of the other games too.
Yeah, Tina made the point I was going to make that when you actually see the cinematic trailer turn into gameplay, and you're like, "Oh, this is how fast this game is." That was really cool, and I agree with you guys in the next gen stuff. I'm worried about Ratchet and Clank because the series itself has always delivered really cool graphics, and it's usually fun, but it's not. It never achieves that kind of Banjo-Kazooie level of like, or Mario Odyssey level of like exploring these areas. And I really like hope they really worked hard on that. And I think the platforming has always been taking a back seat to the kind of, I don't know, the kind of like look of the game.
It's a little bit more about the combat and all the wacky gadgets that you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, they sure nailed that in the trailers.
Yeah, absolutely did.
And then also the long rumored Horizon Zero Dawn sequel, Horizon, Forbidden West. That's right. Finally, this was finally revealed. I think this looks really cool. I know Sam will agree with me on this. The thing they have to do, if this is a non-negotiable for this game, you have to be able to climb everything in this game.
Mm-hmm. If they're going to make this, people always compare Horizon to Breath of the Wild, right? And I think that it could be an amazing Breath of the Wild competitor if you can climb everything. They always seem to want you to actually swim everything, though, in this game. They show a lot of underwater stuff, and I think that's like the big gameplay expansion they want to tout.
Yeah, I love that actually in the trailer, Aloy's kind of narrating what you're going to be seeing in the sequel. So she's saying, I'm going into new depths. And then as she's floating under, kind of submerged underwater, and she's kind of giving a few tips and about what we're potentially going to see in the sequel. I thought the trailer itself was just really well done and narrated by her.
I think that I'm so excited for this one because Zero Dawn was one of the most gorgeous looking games of the last generation, if not the best looking game of the last generation, at least on the PlayStation 4. And the thought of this on the PlayStation 5 with areas that are able to be created in such with such detail. Because one of the big things that Mark Cerny said was that we're going to be eliminating these kind of broad open spaces that, that need to just be kind of bland to fill loading times in, right? And that's all going to be eliminated. And this is the first really exciting open world we've seen on next gen. And it gave me chills. It was my absolute game of the show.
So the last game, it was a spoiler where it was set. I remember people were a little bit mad at me for kind of figuring that out while I was playing it. But this one clearly is set on the West Coast, and you can see Yosemite and Muir Woods and San Francisco. And I think that's always fun for people that live on the West Coast to explore things and see how they look in games. And I'm really excited about that in this game. I'm so excited to see that stuff.
All right, we need to take another quick break, but don't go anywhere. GameScoop will be right back. We'll be talking about Spider-Man, Resident Evil, and much more. Welcome back to a very special GameScoop on IGN Summer of Gaming. Coming up after this is our Bloodborne charity speedrun, and later on we've got IGN Expo 3, jam-packed with trailers, exclusive reveals, and in-depth developer interviews. And don't forget, all Summer of Gaming long, we're asking you to give to the Bail Project and the World Health Organization by following the links in the video description or heading over to donate.ign.com. By donating, you'll have a chance to win codes for games like Resident Evil 3 or swag from companies like id Software. Donors who give more than $50 will have a chance to win a custom Summer of Gaming Xbox One X. We've already generated over $16,000. Major shout out to everyone who's been donating. So cool to see that. Let's get right back into it. We're talking about some of the highlights, some of the most exciting games from the PS5 conference yesterday. Let's talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales. We've learned a little bit more information about this now. It's a standalone entry, not a full sequel. We should expect it to be similar in scope to something like Uncharted Lost Legacy. Lucy, what was your sort of impression about this game? Is this one exciting for you?
This is very exciting for me. I love that it's set, in Christmas time, and obviously I love the focus on Miles Morales because everyone loves him. I am a little disappointed that it was a sort of standalone and that wasn't communicated up front. I think that it could have gone a long way for someone just to have announced it and contextualized it before this trailer, which admittedly looks stunning. But I think that there was a little bit of communication that could have gone a bit further around this one because, people were expecting that this was Spider-Man 2 starring Miles Morales. That's what people want. So finding it's kind of like a standalone is a little disappointing. At the same time, I still think it's an awesome game for Sony to have out the gate with the PlayStation 5. super family friendly. Everyone loves Spider-Man, and it's filling that gap that like people who love pop culture are missing right now because of Hollywood shut down, no MCU going on or anything like that. So it's an awesome game. I'm sure. Like I'm very excited for it. But yeah, standalone, kind of disappointing.
That's interesting. And like Tina was saying, I think this would have been a good opportunity to show a good chunk of gameplay. You know, it's a sequel to a pre-existing game. You assume they're going to be using a lot of the same assets. So it seems to me, and it's also since it's apparently like a launch game for the PS5, seems like they could have like walked us through a level or something, or shown us a boss fight.
Yeah, I was going to mention
Is that what you thought,
this
Tina? Yeah. Sam or Tina?
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, yeah. For 2020, that means that like probably it's a launch game. We only got the 2020 date because they're not going to tell us what the launch date is of the system. But it's really cool to have a Spider-Man game at launch, hopefully. And I was really hoping to hear more about the launch lineup. But if this is like the only thing that we have on day one, everybody's going to play it. It's like the most natural game for everybody to get back into. The swing of things, right?
I love it.
So for my part, yeah, I totally agree. There was some lack of clarity there, which was unfortunate because I think it sort of has dominated the conversation a little bit. Obviously, the internet will move on, especially as soon as we see any level of gameplay. And seeing gameplay would have been cool because they specifically were saying that it's kind of an enhancement of some of the, and this is where some of that confusion came into play, calling it an enhancement, which is why some people were thinking, oh, is this a remaster with some expanded missions with Miles Morales? Regardless, apparently a couple other people are also calling it an expandalone. So add that to your roster of video game buzzwords. But for my part, I was kind of reflecting on the Inside Xbox in May, and then obviously yesterday's Sony conference, and thinking about how many cool like psychological thriller horror games there were. And I know Lucy's with me on this. Like we're just big fans of that genre in general. So it was really exciting to see as personal fans of that. But Miles Morales' chapter in Spider-Man was exciting, and specifically because it stood out as just a fun trailer. The music was fun. Him like kind of leapfrogging around and swinging around was really fun. So it was exciting to see something that looked like it was going to be great, not because it was going to be tormenting and really like dire, devastating, depressing storylines. Obviously, there's a serious tone behind the storyline as well, but I just love that the trailer was coming across in this very like comic booky, fun way.
On a mechanical level, it's so cool to switch Spider-Man like that because he has different powers and you won't have to like come up with an excuse to take away everything whatever gained like Metroid style, like this is a separate standalone like power building game and you're going to move differently and disable enemies differently. That's all good.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying, Damon, like it would have been really nice to have just again to reiterate, just to have a little bit more of that SSD showcase happening here, because of course, and when we first heard about the PlayStation 5 in that Wired article, that was what Mark Cerny was talking about. He like showed the reporter a level in Spider-Man and how quickly you could swing and load the world compared to on a PlayStation 4. And just seeing that in action would have been mwah.
Chef's kiss.
I believe
Chef's kiss.
I believe the
especially for Shattered Dimensions or something like that.
Yeah, I think the Oxford Dictionary announced that expandalone is the word of the year for 2020. The other weird thing about Spider-Man Miles Morales is that it's a standalone expansion to a PS4 game, but you can only play it on PS5, right? Because they've announced that PS5
because Lost
games aren't
Legacy wasn't like a
compatible.
piece of DLC. Like you had to buy the game separately. So I think they're really trying to. I don't know why they should just call it a sequel, but I guess they're worried that like people think it's too small or something, which kind of worries me. I don't really know. I just say it's just another Spider-Man game. Like, come on. I don't get it.
Okay, another game that was revealed, although it's been rumored for a long time, was Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 8. And I know at least 75% of us on this show are big Resident Evil fans. I'm not sure about Tina, but
yeah, I'm a fan insofar as Lucy can stay next to me and watch me play a game while shrieking. That's how I play that, ideally.
Gotcha. I loved Resident Evil 7, and it looks like this one we're playing the same character we played in 7.
Yeah.
And then and Chris is back.
Yeah.
And acting really threatening.
I think the cool thing about this trailer is that it really gave us a sort of a sense that we're straddling the line between the old and the new. So it really, you're playing it like you played Resident Evil 7, but it's still got some of the sensibilities from, say, Resident Evil 4. Even the original Resident Evil, you've got a mansion in there. You've got like currency. Does that mean we're going to have another merchant? You know what I mean? It's like we're seeing a lot of the sort of eccentric nature. What are you buying? We're seeing some of the eccentric nature of the original entries come through, and that's so exciting to me.
I'm hoping village is such a scary word, right? I'm hoping village is like an idea that they're exploring this, where it's like before it was like a mansion, and you could kind of Metroidvania around it, right? Like you can move around and come back to where you started and kind of unlock it all. And that's what always Resident Evil has been about, like exploring. I hope this is kind of open world. You can do that in first person with a Resident Evil game. You know, you can go out and explore this whole village in the snow, in the winter. It's probably gonna have some shining vibes. It looks cool.
And there are werewolves as well.
Thing.
And werewolves.
Yeah.
Not a cat.
But I was going to say the same. I was going to say the same thing about the environment too. Like the mansion in 7 felt really claustrophobic, and obviously to a certain extent by design, because that adds to the horror feel. But it definitely, I'm looking forward to having a couple of those like kind of really tense moments in a bigger environment, and then be introduced to all of these insanely new, creepy werewolf, zombie, whatever crossover characters that we're going to have to face up against.
All right, we do need to take another quick break, but don't go anywhere because GameScoop will be right back, and we'll be sharing our personal faves from the Future of Gaming event and some of the awesome games revealed at our own IGN Expo. Speaking of IGN Expos, we've got another one today right after the charity speedrun. That's right after this. That's Expo 3 at 2:30 Pacific time. There's going to be tons of exclusive content you won't want to miss, so buckle in because there's a lot of good stuff yet to come. Welcome back to GameScoop here on IGN Summer of Gaming. Don't forget to keep those donations to the Bail Project and World Health Organization coming. Right now, let's switch gears from the PS5 conference just for a second. Earlier in this week, as part of IGN Expo, Sam and I had the opportunity to talk with the folks over at Arcade 1UP. Actually, the head 1UP honcho himself,
Mr. 1UP.
the final boss of Arcade 1UP. And they revealed some new arcade cabinets on our show, which is super cool. People just go nuts for these cabinets. I think that was our most popular piece of content that day. So they revealed new cabinets. They revealed Miss Pac-Man, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Big Buck Hunter, the light gun shooting game, and then a 3/4 pinball machine of Marvel Pinball, which is interesting. Because Marvel Pinball was a digital pinball game that came to Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network, and now they've recreated a physical version of that with a screen. So first of all, I think people are going to be super excited for Miss Pac-Man. Sam, why is this such a big deal?
It's weird because Namco designed Pac-Man, Toru Iwatani designed it in Japan, and then two MIT students modded it and sold their mod, and then Midway, who published Pac-Man here, bought that mod and made Miss Pac-Man out of it. So Namco doesn't really put out Miss Pac-Man. They kind of are like, oh, that's something else. And then the licensing is weird. And so even though we think of it as like the sequel to Pac-Man, it's the biggest thing in the world. It's so natural to say, what Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, right? Like it was just really hard to license this game and put it out. But they did, and they made it pink and blue and glorious. It's so cool. It's the funniest little art package for Miss Pac-Man.
It's a very, very pretty cabinet. I love it. And then we're seeing a Big Buck Hunter here. How are they handling this tech without a CRT television?
Yeah, so I looked this up. So basically, you know, you used to have an old school television or a Wii remote to point at a television so it knew where things are. Like those are the two technologies. And the Wii remote used basically you can use 2 candles or 2 infrared light sources, and then it kind of knew where you were pointing. This draws a box of pixels around the screen, and then a camera on the gun knows where you're pointing. That's basically how it works.
Wow. Well, the cabinets are very cool. They're all coming later this year. I'm especially excited for the Miss Pac-Man one. But let's share our personal favorites for games we've seen so far. It could be from Sony's PS5 event or something from an IGN Expo. Lucy, let's start with you.
Look, I'm bored by my answer, but I have to be truthful to myself. Horizon Forbidden West. It just it was such a glorious thing to see. I thought that basically they were going to perhaps show a logo with a tiny cinematic. But you know, we got so much richness in this trailer, and it just with the creatures sort of having this kind of more bio-organic form to them, like the giant turtle covered in moss, And the underwater sections just like excite me so much, just immediately extremely claustrophobic. And again, just this thought of being in this open world again. I loved Horizon Zero Dawn, and returning to it on the PlayStation 5 is just so exciting to me. And I'm also very super excited that Aloy is back. There was a lot of discussion as to whether or not she was kind of iconic enough as a protagonist to return, whether they were going to mix it up with someone new. But I loved Aloy. I thought she was a fantastic, fantastic character, and I'm really pleased she was important enough to Sony to return in the sequel. So I'm just all in on this one.
And as Sam pointed out earlier today, the logo for Horizon Forbidden West it does seem to have a 2 in it, right?
Yeah, it has a 2.
Or I don't know if it's just supposed to be like a subliminal thing to let you know
it has like
Horizon
a
2.
Roman
It's
numeral
the
2,
sequel.
but it's not called that.
Okay, Tina, I believe we didn't get a chance to talk about this earlier, but I think Ghostwire Tokyo was your pick.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, as one of the resident big fans of horror, psychological horror, especially this like creepy world and set in somewhere that's so iconic as Tokyo, it was so amazing to see it kind of evaporated of all of humankind, and then facing what are called visitors, I believe. I just loved the style, but also the setting and the way that the gameplay is represented here, where it just seems like this very like magic heavy. Interesting way of combating all of these really creepy enemies. It just looks completely my jam in terms of all of those elements. And I can't wait to see more. I mean, we did see the teaser that kind of set the tone back in, I believe, last year's E3. It was just purely cinematic. So we finally got to see a chance of how that's going to blend, how that tone and style is going to actually blend in a gameplay way. And it looks like it's perfectly symbiotic, adding to that kind of depth of creepiness and fantasy world that I love to see in games.
And to think it's
Lucy, I
from the
believe
creator of Goof Troop on the Super Nintendo. I just can't believe that.
Yep.
But yeah, Shinji Mikami, he had a Resident Evil trailer in this. How weird is that?
Yeah.
I know, isn't it wild?
Somebody else is making his games now, and then he put this out. It's really funny.
I mean, I'm really stoked for this because it's such a departure for what Tango has done previously, and of course what Shinji Mikami is known for. I really felt like The Evil Within was a successor to Resident Evil. It felt like the next logical step, right, for Shinji Mikami. This feels completely different. Like it's still, we're seeing some horror stuff still. We've got a kind of Slender Man kind of trope in there. We've got the creepy child with no head. But it's, yeah, exactly. But as Tina said, it's very psychedelic and weird and different. And I have no idea how you play it, but I love that Tango's going in a different direction with this one.
Seems to be a lot of
Also
magic from hands.
Yeah.
I believe that's the technical term.
Yes, magic from hands.
How else are you going to cast? You're going to cast a spell by waving your foot around? That would be ridiculous.
Someone make that game.
It's also it was interesting that both Ghostwire and Deathloop, 2 Bethesda games, are going console exclusive to PS5.
Yeah,
That
that's a big get. I think
get
that was not really like super hammered home in this showcase, but we all kind of found out after the fact. But those are massive wins for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it has 13 exclusives, and the Xbox has 5 right now.
Wow. But who's keeping score?
Sam.
All right. Sam, what would be your pick?
So I picked a game that we actually revealed for the first time this week, and this is not a troll pick, as Damon keeps on accusing me of. It's because we're on Game Scoop, and sometimes we talk about old games, and this game looks really cool. It's called Alex Kidd, and it was a game for the Master System, and the Master System was for kids that were very sad because they didn't have an NES. So most people didn't play this game except for a bunch of sad kids in 1987. So I'm really happy that we can all be sad kids now. No, just kidding. But no, it looks so cool. Like, I mean, it's an interesting game. It's their answer to Mario at the time, but it was all about puzzle platforming. You hit a bunch of cubes out of walls and climb up things and stuff like that. I love the remake graphics, and I love how you can swap between a retro look and the contemporary one, which you can do, which is always a cool thing. And I just think it'll be a cool bubblegum game that also has some history behind it.
Sam, you'd be interested to know that New Zealand was not a Nintendo country. It was a Sega country, right? So every kid who had a console had a Master System. So most kids in New Zealand played Alex Kidd. And so this is
crazy?
a
Wow.
gift to New Zealanders.
Oh, Alex Kiwi. It was built into consoles at some point. So like every kid that even had a Master System, you just turn it on without a cartridge in it and it would play Alex Kidd. Isn't that crazy? Like we don't think of that as like something that would happen in the 80s to like build in basically a game, but it happened with that. It's cool.
That's interesting. So Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX is a gift to New Zealanders, and Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy was a gift from New Zealanders.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My
Put that on the box.
I think the game, the most impressive thing I've seen so far is Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. Just like I was saying before, it's the first thing that I've seen that I've been like, wow, that looks really impressive. That seems to actually be showing off the PS5's
I would have
SSD.
not predicted this being the Damie game.
Really? I mean, I've played Ratchet and Clank games before and enjoyed them. I think this Rift mechanic right here, that just looks so cool, and I can't wait to do that.
I thought you'd be all in on Stray.
I mean, we already talked about Stray earlier. Stray also looks very
We
cool.
gave Stray its due.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like everyone seems to really be feeling that the PlayStation had a really great showing yesterday. Where do you think this leaves Microsoft? I think there's, we're expecting to get some sort of showcase for them next month in July. Tina, what do you think Microsoft needs to do to sort of keep up with Sony now that Sony has sort of taken the torch from them and run with all the next gen hype?
I mean, it helps that Sony had 37 games, which I believe, we had marked that Xbox was about half of that. I imagine they have a few tricks up their sleeve that they're waiting to reveal too. I think a big part of it is also the presentation quality and the fact that the conversation was very specifically focused on how many games there were and the reveal of the hardware design. So it's hard to really find any negativity in the Sony conversation around so many big reveals and so many big news drops. Whereas for Xbox's last showcase, at the very least, that got mired in a lot of conversation around Valhalla, not presenting anything gameplay wise. People had this big expectation, and I think that they had developed a lot of hype that was therefore like not really met at the end of the day, and that kind of withdrew a lot of the positive sentiment that they've been accruing since some of the negative sentiment around their previous generation. So I think they've been doing a really great job being communicative and transparent with the community, and I really respect that as far as their positioning goes and their methodology in communicating with us goes. So I think keeping up with that and a couple more games, and hopefully not leading themselves into their own pitfalls that they fell into a little bit there. Last month's reveal is the way to go for them.
All right, well, Tina, Lucy, and Sam, thank you so much for hanging out with me on GameScoop today. This is totally fun.
Thanks
But
for having me
everyone
on.
out there, that about does it for the Summer of Gaming edition of GameScoop. But we hope you'll stick around for our charity stream featuring speedrunner Jesus Here's Toast, blasting through Bloodborne, which counts us down to the third of our 4 IGN Expos at 2:30 Pacific time. We've got tons of brand new trailers and gameplay to share, plus IGN News live, rounding out the day with highlights and analysis. Follow us on TikTok, donate, send us a yappa, watch us on IGN One on your Samsung TV Plus. It's your Summer of Gaming. Enjoy it your way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. My name is Damon. This is IGN GameScoop, and we're out.